broken heart. More focus should be given on physical and mental support. More fun science and math classes should be conducted in various hands-on methods to make the concept easier to grasp for all types of learners. I also believe I can provide more support to the entire education system by physically being at sites to put things together and find out solutions of giving more support and encouragement to the children. I can take responsibility and show leadership in making education more meaningful. Education and life are two pieces now. I would like to connect them together. Education for life is what I would like to work on. I would like to bridge and bring a close connection amongst the children, school, and district as a whole. I would have a close-knit connection with the other trustees to follow and work in an ethical and respectable manner to increase the functionality and optimize my duty for this position. I'm trustworthy, loyal, and I'm accountable to produce a report on the areas that I shall work on so the team spirit can be maintained and we shall all be on the same page. Lastly, I shall present myself in a wise, judicious manner at all times as a professional and would be careful with my behavior and actions. Thank you very much.
That's right. Randy? First, I want to thank each of the board members for engaging in this task tonight. You're a great group of advocates, and I'm sure you're going to make a good choice. I want to thank you all for your service to the community. I've been attending board meetings regularly since before all of you, any of you, were seated on the dais, and I can attest to your many, many hours of service. And not only have you spent time serving in the capacity of board members, some of you for over 5 years now, but most of you have been through competitive campaigns to be in your seats. This is no small undertaking either, as I now have personal knowledge. As you all know, I ran for a seat this past November. Running for the seat was a great experience and taught me a lot. And it gave me additional appreciation for all of you and what was required of you, both to throw your hat into the ring in the first place and to get elected. Maybe one or more of you are similar to me in that it's really hard to put yourself out there when you're a hardcore introvert who really likes their privacy. For all of the public comments that I've made over the years, believe it or not, I'm nervous every single time. And of course, I'm nervous right now. But I'm here and participating for something larger than myself or my ego. I'm here and participating for our community and our children. I feel passionately enough to speak up, to invest my time, to connect with others, and to go beyond myself because I care about the success of our community and our children. And I believe that this is your driving motivation as well. So I want to reflect on some of the important growth that I've witnessed over the past 5 years or so. This growth is attributable to work that has been done by this board and values that this board holds. So the equity and sanctuary task forces have been necessary and important and effective efforts for our district. We have a resolution on the agenda tonight that attests to that fact. Our community approved a parcel tax and a bond measure to support our general fund and our facilities. These were necessary. A little over 5 years ago, teachers were close to going on strike. Now, not only are labor relations improved, but I also hear teachers talking about feeling supported and working together instead of feeling alone and silent. Our district now has a solid 5-year strategic plan and strives to be data informed. There's another resolution on the agenda tonight for special education. The content of this resolution represents some real progress from where the district was 5 years ago. The Ed Foundation has grown and evolved as a strong organization. And we have a goal and a plan for the return of a full-size school that serves and strengthens the North Central community. These are only a few of the accomplishments. All the while, thousands of children have learned and grown within the walls of our schools. Of course, the work is not done, and it never will be done. but I'm ready to jump in for the next, not quite 2 years, and actively work on district needs with you. Some of the needs that I see, I mentioned in my application, you saw still continue to work on community engagement, really using data. And I think that using data will help to drive community engagement, and we need to engage the community if we want to continue to attract families of all means to the district. We also need to focus on community engagement if we want to tackle the need for more equitable site-specific funding that currently comes from each school site's PTA. There needs to be much more trust and engagement built up to start having conversations with the community about how to do that. Some of the extras that are funded by the site-specific PTAs, in my view, are just as important as the 3 Rs. These extras intersect meaningfully with the rich diversity found in our community. I'm talking about things like the art, the music, outdoor ed, field trips, these sorts of things. These experiences open the mind, use different parts of the brain and body, and provide opportunities. And we need to ensure that these opportunities are available to all of our students, regardless of PTA funding. So why me now? As you look to fill out your 5-member team, I think that I bring diversity, skills, and relationships that will help over the next couple of years. I'm a Native American. I haven't seen any Native Americans on the board. I think that we could use that representation. I'm analytical, I'm data informed, and I'm motivated to work with you to continue this good work that you've been engaged in. I thank you for your service.
Thank you, Randy. Next up will be Andrew.
Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. I'm not going to repeat the things that were in my application, but I'll simply cover things that may have not stood out. 3 things: why this role, why me, and then opportunities that I see. I have 2 children who've either been in the district or are currently in the district. My daughter went to Fiesta Gardens and the amazing Spanish immersion program there. My son is currently at Parkside Montessori. So we've gone to the 2 of the magnet schools here, and we love it. At Parkside, I'm on the school site committee as well as incoming secretary of the PTA. Looking at data across the schools, we've tried to improve some of the aspects of the school site. But what's interesting to me is having a broader impact across the 18 elementary schools and 21 total schools. And so that's what's interesting to me about this role. We have some really good schools, we have some decent schools, and we have some schools that have opportunities for improvement. That's what I see as the opportunity here. I think the board needs a diverse set of voices and broad set of opinions. What's interesting to me is I have 1 son in Parkside. I said my daughter graduated from Fiesta, but she did not stay on within the district. We talked to a number of people. She was thriving in math, and the guidance from folks across the district, we won't name names, were like, your daughter will probably be better served outside, because what the district does exceptionally well is solve for the middle and the broad average and people who need extra resources. But really, when you're at the top, our district doesn't have the full resources available to that. And that was frustrating, because I consider myself a socialist, but by American standards, we should invest in public education, and that was somewhat dismaying that folks at the upper end should seek private education. Obviously, we're challenged financially as a district, stuck in the formulaic gap that is California's school funding model. But I think if we look at data and how we solve for this educational outcome, we can solve and deliver better education for everyone with those limited resources that we have. What's interesting to me is not solving just for the kids in the district today, but what are we doing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, and looking at those long-term outcomes. Why me? My background is in product leadership, both in the public and private sector. I've worked at companies such as Facebook, where I led ads, Lyft, responsible for safety and support into it. I've also directed a winning city council campaign in Burlingame, worked for the city of Philadelphia and their downtown improvement district. At the crux of all that was understanding data, though, and how do you leverage data to drive outcomes? So understanding in every role, having the data that you need to drive progressive outcomes. Also, it was a combination of strategy and tactics. Heading up product organizations, you can't just have dreams without execution, and you can't just execute without dreams. where do you want to go? And without that North Star vision, you're just moving a lot, but not executing on the long term. So combining those is essential in what I've done in all my jobs. And I'm happy to talk more about my experience later, but I don't want to take up time. As to opportunities, in the remaining 2 minutes, I want to touch on 3 things. Ensuring that the curriculum solves for everyone, as I talked about my daughter. But what was frustrating at Fiesta was a lot of the top students were people of color and weren't even aware of the gate testing that we had to them. So some people simply didn't take that test and they didn't know it was available. We're like, wow, the top students at Fiesta were people of color, didn't take the gate and simply went along their way. So providing gate opportunities to everyone is top in terms of exploring those opportunities for everyone. You shouldn't just know about a program to benefit from it. So for me, that's critically important. And making sure the curriculum solves for all. I know we've gone to unified math or 6th grade math. We've seen litigation in San Francisco and Palo Alto that have come against those districts saying, hey, the unified math program is actually not solving for anyone. So I want to make sure that we're solving for that and not simply at the risk of future litigation. Secondly, I think our physical plant right now, we've talked a lot about that. In the last bond measure, implemented a lot of NPRs and gyms across sites and delivered a lot of benefit across sites. But having an evergreen list that schools can say, hey, we don't need an NPR, we need a science building or new classrooms. Certainly Parkside and North Shoreview haven't had facility upgrades since 1959 in some cases. So that would be important as well. And finally, I think there's opportunity at the middle schools to say, hey, how do we ensure that those schools are really best in class facilities? Certainly the North Central campus and integrating 8th grade into that. We have a bunch of schools that are integrating 8th grade, but how do our middle schools also really stand out? And I'll conclude by asking, where do you want our district to be, not just next year, but in 5, 10, 20 years? And that's the information I'd love to participate in. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Fred.
Good evening, Board President Watkins, Vice President Chin, board members, and staff. I stand before you and this board in hopes of joining you, representing San Mateo and Foster City for just a year and a half remaining on the board term for this current at-large district. I have lived in 3 different San Mateo Foster City trustee districts, numbers 1, 4, and 5. First was in North Central area when I first moved into an apartment in San Mateo. But I do not live in the newly drawn district or intend to live there. So I plan to serve this term without political distraction or ambition, just reaching out to and listening to constituents, which is important. The voters of the newly drawn district should choose the representative they wish in 2024 without having an appointed incumbent. I wish to continue my lifelong dedication to serving local education, which has included our community colleges since the 1960s, and with an office at CSM and Trustee District 3. With my personal and historical knowledge of the entire district, I am ready and qualified to quickly step up and step in with this provisional appointment and serve the district for the remaining term. You have basically seen this candidate at recent board meetings, but a reminder, however, that I have attended your board meetings since the 1970s and also local education board meetings, including community college and high school, dating to the 60s. I have been involved with and in the San Mateo Foster City School District area in several capacities for more than 6 decades, including a Foster City School Site Council when my daughters were there. I've served on many other area boards, commissions, committees. You, this board, have previously appointed me to serve on your Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, of which I'm now one of the longer serving members and have been selected to serve as vice chair. I therefore understand the difference among advisory committees and commissions and elected and appointed boards. I have gained key insights into our own district's finances and have found our visits at district schools important while serving on the Bond Oversight Committee. I do not wish to belabor you here with too much public educational background, but some of it is important to illustrate my ongoing leadership and involvement. locally and throughout the world. I have served on local city and county boards for 45 years, including as a charter member of the San Mateo County Veterans Commission, appointed by the County Board of Supervisors, whose members know me. I have been appointed by the Foster City Council to its advisory committee since 1978. This includes education and educational facilities committees, serving as chair of both. And I'm the current Parks and Recreation Chair for Foster City. I bring a world of experience, having worked at or on educational and athletic sites on 6 continents and visited the poorest areas of South Africa. This involves 16 Olympic Games with world championships in track and aquatics, the sports I work in quite a bit with in research and television production. This included the 1972 Munich Olympics, working with Jim McKay and covering the tragic developments live for ABC and receiving mentions in his subsequent book, My Wide World. And we've learned now that we have to have security for events, facilities everywhere have evolved from there. That year, I also founded a national organization of journalists, the Track and Field Writers of America. And more recently, in December, I was honored with an award from the San Francisco Press Club for my columns in the San Mateo Daily Journal covering the Tokyo Olympic Games. I have served as a U.S. Olympic team leader on an international collegiate team, and I brought here into San Mateo as the local host director for the 2014 USOC Paralympics. And that track and field national championships at College of San Mateo. That's the first time the event's been held in this area. And more recently, I've been hosting the Women's Decathlon National Championships, a new international event for women utilizing CSM's International Track Facility. So I've worked on major US network television productions, as you may notice, from sites throughout the former Soviet Union, including in Moscow, East Berlin, Minsk, Kyiv, Odessa, etc. I can relate to what's going on in the world a little bit right now.
Wouldn't mind just wrapping up because you're at time.
Yeah, thank you. And I was, going by the 5 to 10 minute window we were given here. I was trying to give you some of the background of things you don't know about me, because some of you do know me, okay? And my 4 daughters, now all with professional careers and a total of 9 college degrees, have all benefited by their education in this district. Also 2 grandchildren, totally 8. 6 of them have attended 6 different San Mateo Foster City school sites. So I understand our schools, and all have received an outstanding education. So that's why I'm dedicated to a lot of what you're doing here. I understand it. I've also I pioneered directed human relations program for students here since the 1960s, when Mercy High student Jackie Spear attended and subsequently served as a counselor at summer workshops I directed for La Honda YMCA camp property during the summer. Last year, CSM sent me to the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity in Portland, a fantastic learning opportunity. So also,
Right, just last sentence, okay? We're over.
Yep.
You said the 5
I need
minutes.
to mention all these things here. I can answer questions from you. It's now getting down to dealing with the subject at hand. The San Mateo Foster City School District has a 5-year strategic plan in place to guide us, which I would be working with you on, and aligning our financial resources.
I'm going to stop you here, Fred, just because we stopped everyone else at 5 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, and then finalists will have an opportunity to share additional information.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I just want to make sure, Forrest, if we could just check. Well, I'm going to check here that Keith is not in the audience. Okay. And let's just make sure online that Keith is not there. I just checked and I didn't see him.
I also do not see Keith in the audience, but if there is someone who is representing Keith that is in the audience that would like to raise their hand, I'd also like to recognize that Marissa has their hand raised in our panelist section, if we can bring them in and allow them to make a comment.
I don't think Marissa needs to be panelist anymore. She was
understand.
a panelist for PTA Council, but I think she has her hand raised for public comment on this item, which is what we'll go to next. So we'll first start with any audience public comment on this item. Just, if you can just bring speaker slips over to Tatiana, please. And then she'll call folks. No. Maybe Tatiana, if folks want to just give Tatiana slips and then I'll grab them and then I can call. Is that for public comment, Tatiana? They're all inside. Thank you. Yeah, we just bring them over to Tatiana first and then deliver. So we'll start with Amy, followed by Dan. Amy Connors.
Good evening, School Board Trustees, Superintendent Ochoa. My name is Amy Connors, and I'm a parent of 2 children, one of whom currently attends the San Mateo-Foster City School District. I'm here to provide an endorsement for Randy Painter, but before continuing with my statement, I want to say thank you so much to our current trustees, to past trustees, and to all the applicants here tonight. Having attended meetings and been involved in the school district for a while, it's very clear what an immense amount of work this is. I'm sure a very often thankless job and incredibly important position for our school and community. Randy's well qualified to serve on the San Mateo-Foster City School Board. She's been engaged in understanding and raising awareness about the needs of our San Mateo-Foster City community for many years. And as a fellow parent at schools with her and also involved with district topics, I feel that she would be a really wonderful fit for the school board. Whether through comments and questions at school board meetings that she's provided, hosting parent and staff discussions, being a member of the district's strategic planning committee, and setting up social media site to encourage more parent and staff voices to speak up in past issues. It's clear how much she cares about the success of our district and wants to be a continued part of its improvement. She understands the direction and priorities of our district and is aware of challenges facing our students, our district, and education in general as we go forward. I'm pleased to support and endorse Randy for her application, and I thank you all for considering all of the candidates for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Dan, followed by Andrew.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to give you some insight on my good friend and person of character, Katie Dyack. She's, I've known her for about 8 years, and I'm a parent who also has kids in schools here as well, and want to provide some insight on a few things that you wouldn't see in an application. If I were to describe her in one word, it's driven. She's always advocating for her children and others, as well as organizing the family and community around positive ideas. One of the reasons she's a perfect fit, and one of many, is the conversation we had while our kids were playing in a parking lot during the pandemic. It was striking to me how excited she was about overcoming some of the challenges Zoom school was presented to the children. And I asked her, I said, Katie, you're so excited about these ideas. Have you ever thought about being the PTA president? And she gasped and lit up. She said it was her dream. As a daughter of a firefighter, serving the community is important to her. She's an organizer of the community, and building comes naturally. She's even been involved with her children as sports teams and advocates to get more volunteers to come out. And I've served on a couple of football or soccer teams with her. She's gotten her teams recognized and been brought up by the San Francisco Giants onto the field for her young baseball team that was, I believe, a wiffle ball for 3 to 5 year olds at the time. She's hyper organized and has a spreadsheet for everything. Girl Scouts, camps, sports teams, school schedules, you name it, there's a spreadsheet for it. She's been very aware and firsthand experience for all the stress that the pandemic has placed on administrators, teachers, parents, and students alike. She's looking for long-term solutions and is vested in our community here. As the mother of 2 children, her daughter has severe allergies, and she's been able to work with both parents and administrators of children, as well as the teachers, to compassionately teach all of them why it is important that food safety be taught in the classroom. Other problems and challenges that come up would be treated in the same way. And our nickname for her is Fizzy B. Kate. When she takes on a cause, you better look out. She invests all of her time and energy. Her current venture, being Katie's Safe Sweet Treats, is a passion of love for her daughter. It's a low allergen cake mix that is designed so that when children who have allergies go to parties, they can also participate in the joy of having a celebration with their friends. Beyond that, she's had another company called Vintage Vinyl Records, and it made journals that were picked up by very famous singers like Michael Bublé and Bon Jovi. Very stylish with the outside, and she cut up, recycled records and made things that people would use. Her experience in finance would go a long way, and a budget's not foreign to her. And likewise, inclusion is one of the most important things that she sees in her day-to-day. So that being said, I could only come up with one negative. She's an Eagles fan. And as a passionate 49ers fan, I do hold that against her. But as someone who really cares about our community, I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about our community builder, Katie, and I appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Andrew, followed by Phoebe.
Good evening, Superintendent Ochoa, President Watkins, and Board of Trustees. My name is Andrew Prock. Both my children have attended public school in this district, an entire elementary education. My youngest finishing 8th grade this year. I'm here to speak on behalf of Randy Painter. I came to know Ms. Painter during the pandemic when a variety of issues led me to expand my engagement with the district beyond the PTA. It was through Ms. Painter that I learned of many of the challenges that face students in our district. Over the years, I guess, I've come to learn that Ms. Painter's passion for students, education, and equity is a driving force behind her engagement. Her depth of knowledge and empathy has shown through in her public comments and advocacy. More than anything, it was Ms. Painter's focus on pragmatic delivery of equitable education for all students that inspired me and myself to engage more fully with the district. It's a rare person that can balance idealism and pragmatism to advocate for programs that will make material and measurable difference in the life of students. Ms. Painter's personal background within under-resourced communities, as well as her professional experience in education and data, places her in a unique position to advocate effectively for students who need the most support. Ms. Painter's passion, skills, and engagement are a rare gift. Should the board choose to broaden Ms. Painter's role by elevating her to a board position, the benefits to the student population, and most especially to the under-resourced students, would be invaluable and life-changing. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Phoebe, followed by Dave.
Good evening, community members, applicants, staff, board, and superintendent. I'm going to try to read this is very small on my phone. Phoebe, and I'm very excited that my friend Maggie Trun has stepped up as a candidate for the vacancy on your board. Maggie is quite a special person. Her strengths truly run the gamut. She's highly intelligent, collaborative, trustworthy, thoughtful, accountable. Wow, I used a lot of adjectives. Adaptable and resilient. I probably could have used 50 more. Maggie's professional and personal focus areas definitely reflect her dedication to transparency, equity, service, and community building. All things I know that you value and execute every day on. I urge you to strongly consider appointing Maggie to your board. As I'm a parent of a student in our district, I feel and see and know that we are in great hands with the 4 of you, or more of you. But with Maggie, you can be even stronger given her passion, experience, and strengths. Thank you for your consideration and your leadership.
Thank you, Phoebe. Dave, followed by Albert.
I didn't prepare words. I didn't realize it was so formal for the public comment part. I'm also here to provide support for Maggie Trun. I've known Maggie for about 10 years. We met through a community chorus that we both sing in. She's one of the more dedicated members in the chorus. She's always around to help out and lend a hand whenever she can. She's, as the previous speaker said, she's very smart. She's dedicated to things that she's involved in. If I ever want to know what's going on in the community, I check with Maggie because I know she's really engaged in what's happening, whether that's the new bike lanes on Humboldt, what's happening with selecting the mayor this year that was a little bit chaotic. I know Maggie's going to know what's going on with what's happening in the community. She has 2 kids like I do. We both had our kids at the same preschool, and I got a chance to really see how she engages in that sort of educational setting. We live in different areas and have our kids now at different elementaries, but we both have elementary school age kids. I think Maggie will be a great support to the entire district. I think her employment law background and her experience there will also help understand the needs of the teachers and as well as the balance of what happens on the appointment side from the district. And I think she'll be a really excellent contribution to the Board of Trustees. Thanks.
Albert?
Good evening, Board of Trustees, and thank you all for being here. I'm also here to offer support for Maggie Trim, who I think will be an incredible ally and partner for your team. Maggie has two wonderful children who attend Sunnybrook Elementary, and she's also my next door neighbor, so I know her very well. She has consistently been an advocate for our public schools and serves on the PTA of her school. And over the time I've known her, Maggie has incredible amounts of energy and passion for education. And I think she'd do an amazing job of making high quality public education accessible and available for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Forrest, we'll turn it over to you now to go through our Zoom public comments, please.
Thank you, President Watkins. I'll now be turning it over to public comment. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand functionality within Zoom now, and you will be given 3 minutes to make your comment. I will be starting with Marissa. I'm going to be allowing you to unmute and go ahead and begin when ready.
Hi, I know you have a long night ahead of you, and thank you to the board for being here and for making such a good choice here. And you have so many fine candidates. I will focus my support for Randy Paintner on what you haven't yet heard, given that I know 2 people have spoken for her already. In addition to the qualities that she submitted on her application and that you've already heard, she has a uniqueness in terms of the ability to disagree while not being disagreeable. And I think that is a key trait that will help this board continue in the progress that it has been making. What makes her unique is that while she has certainly voiced disagreement with a number of things, sometimes that this board does, and in other settings, she always does so with respect, speaking of the strengths of her position, not putting down anyone or coming across in an insulting way. What she has that no other candidate today has is just shy of 11,000 votes from the public who endorsed her when she ran. And again, a campaign that she ran only on her strengths without coming across as putting down anyone else. And I focus on that for 2 reasons. 1, because you've heard of her other strengths already. And 2, because I think Randy's uniqueness is that she brings people together, and she brings attention to issues in a way that brings people together so that the resources for solving the problem are increased rather than dividing. Thank you.
Moving on to our next attendee, Lin He. Go ahead and begin when ready.
Hi, my name is Lin He. Good evening to trustee members and staff. I'm a mother of 2 daughters who study in College Park. I'm here to support Katie Dieck. Katie's daughter Penny and my daughter Adelina are both in College Park, 4th grade GATE class. So Katie is new to College Park, and she has already made a lot of contribution to our school. She is the room parent for the 4th grade GATE class, and she has done a superb job. She sends out timely communications and organizes regular events such as end of year party, Lunar New Year party, and Valentine card exchange. She even made a farewell book for our English teacher, Miss Davis, when she was leaving, and that was last minute notice. On top of that, she was also one of the Math Madness coaches, and she also signed up to be a workshop leader of our art and science festival. So I want to tell a story here. That's how I got to know Katie more. When our beloved teacher, Miss Davis, was leaving the school due to personal reasons, our kids had a different sub-English teacher for days. And Penny and Adelina, they were particularly upset with the situation. I didn't know what to do, but Katie immediately reached out to a few parents, informed us of the situation, and urged us to attend January's school district board meeting. And I guess maybe that's the reason now she's running for this. Because of the email thread she started, we got the acknowledgement from our principal And eventually we had a listening session from the school district. And now, of course, we have hired a permanent teacher for this position and everybody's happy. So from this incident, I got to know Katie more and recognize her strength. She's very proactive and resourceful and strong. I support Katie not only because she impressed me with her strength and various contributions to College Park, but also because her improvement plans. As a mother of 2 daughters and a woman in tech, I strongly support allocating more resources to help girls to study STEM topics. We not only need to make STEM subjects engaging and fun, but also to remove the social biases towards STEM subjects. So just to summarize, I believe Katie is the best candidate for this role. She is passionate with a variety of experiences. And most important of all, she has the right plan and the strength to carry it out. That's all for me. Thank you.
Our next attendee, Pablo. Go ahead and start when ready. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you see me on the camera or no? Can you see me? Or,
No.
okay. Well, hola, buenas noches. Me llamo Pablo Quintanilla. Soy un vecino de Maggie Tran. Estoy hablando porque quiero apoyar su candidatura a esta posición que es súper importante. Hemos visto que Maggie ha estado súper envuelta en temas cívicos en nuestra comunidad, con el PTA de Sunnybrae, con los directores y directoras ahí en la escuela. Entonces realmente hemos observado su liderazgo cívico y por eso pues estamos apoyando su candidatura a esta posición. Hi, my name is Pablo. I'm Maggie's next door neighbor. I see some of our other neighbors also present. That, if anything, really speaks to Maggie's ability to bring people together and also to sort of find ways in which to engage neighbors and members of the community on civic matters. And we've had a front row seat in watching her do this time and time again on matters ranging from equity in housing all the way to what we're talking about today, which is really equity in education. I've admired her, sort of her leadership on these matters. I love that she sends her children to our school 2 blocks away. And not only that, but she's taken a leadership role in the PTA, and more importantly, in finding ways in which to bridge the gap between the PTA and the school management or the principals. So with all of that, I just really wanted to support her candidacy. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all the other folks who were throwing their names in the hat. Really, really encouraging to see so many members of the community be involved. Thank you.
Our next attendee, Bree Myers. You can unmute and begin when ready.
Hello. Thank you all. My name is Brian Myers. I'm the PTA president of Sunnybrae Elementary. Thank you everyone for the opportunity to speak. I'm calling in to express my support for Maggie for the trustee position. She and I both have children at Sunnybrae, and we've worked together on many school and non-school related community projects. She's an authentic individual who not only cares deeply for her community, but she takes action to make her community better for everyone. As a mother, Maggie has demonstrated her commitment to our community by enrolling her children in our school district and to their assigned school, Sunnybrae, a Title I school. Maggie is an active member of the school, as you know, PTA, school aids counselor, and she's been truly instrumental in facilitating better communication between parents in English and Spanish, the teachers, and the school administration. Maggie is also highly skilled and experienced employment law litigator, and this background will be invaluable in her role as a trustee, where many of the items that come up, she has to make an informed decision on a range of legal and policy issues. If chosen, Maggie will help represent the underrepresented Title I schools and their families in our district. Currently, the trustee board does not have any members whose families are at Title I schools. And it's one thing to know and hear about the disparity between our Title I schools and our non-Title I schools, but you don't truly know the extent of the disparity unless your student is enrolled at one of these schools. Title I schools are unable to compete with non-Title I schools in PTA funding, parent volunteering, and the connections and enrichment opportunities that the more affluent parents are able to create for their children. And so for all of this, I believe that Maggie's unique blend of skills, experience, and dedication to her neighborhood, school, and community will make her an excellent candidate for the trustee position. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak and for your time and energy you give to our community and school district.
Our next attendee, Seema Patel. You may begin when ready.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I do want to note quickly that I currently serve as a planning commissioner for the city of San Mateo, but I am speaking tonight on my own behalf. I'm speaking tonight in support for Maggie Trin. As others have noted, she has two daughters that attend Sunny Bray Elementary, and she's already very active in the San Mateo Foster City School District education system. She serves on the PTA and the school site council and the English language advisory committee. She's participated in planning various community school workshops. She also is very active in our local bicycle coalition and advocating for safe routes to school to make sure that our children have a safe way to get to school via walking or biking. She attended California public schools from elementary school all the way through law school. And those experiences really helped her understand that it's incredibly important that we prioritize equity and access in our educational system. So I believe for all of those reasons, and as others have noted, she's known in our community for being very collaborative and very respectful. She would be a very strong addition to the board, and I urge you to consider appointing her. Thank you so much.
Our next attendee, Rena Korb. You may begin when ready. Go ahead and unmute.
Hi, yes. Hi, this is Rena Korb, and I have heard, several good candidates, but I am voicing my support for Randy Painter. Aside for the things that she said and her other supporters have said, I also think it's really an important thing to note that Randy actually ran for this position. She was the first person to run for this board position since 2017 or 2018. I'm sorry, I can't quite recall. Most of you have run a campaign. No, it's not an easy thing to do. And she stepped up to do it because she thought it was important. Like public service and any way you get there is a wonderful thing. But I think that the fact that she stepped up and ran really shows her dedication to the kids in this district. Thank you.
Our next attendee, Jean McKenna.
Hi, thank you. First, thank you for continuing to support Zoom participation. I'm solo parenting tonight and was able to feed my son dinner while we both listened to this meeting. So thank you, that's awesome. I strongly recommend you appoint Randy Painter to this position. If you've been to a school board meeting in the last 5 years, you know Randy. Randy's shown dedication and focus on school issues over many years. She attends all these meetings, usually participating. She's the go-to person in the community, and she helps create spaces where many others can give voice to education issues of concern. Just a few months ago, there was another open position. Of all the candidates tonight, I think only Randy was interested enough in being on the school board to run a campaign, which, as many have said, is not an easy thing to do. Being on the board, as you also all know, is hard work. One candidate tonight has demonstrated her commitment to these issues is strong enough she's willing to do the work to get there, to be there ongoing, and to make contributions ongoing. Randy brings an independent voice and a unique perspective. She's a Native American, a woman in STEM, a mother with children in the district, a community leader. She knows the history our district has been through, the decisions we've had to make. To know where you should go, it really helps to know where you are, who you are, where you've come from, as Randy does. Some on the board may not always appreciate the questions she asks at board meetings. Perhaps some of you see it as challenging. And I know Randy, and I know she's always acting in good faith. She's always using her skills and abilities to advance the interest of students in the district. If I were to think of the next person I would want on my team, representing my community, I would look to those courageous, independent, smart, well-organized souls who show up and force me to think, force me to be at my best, even if I don't always agree with them. Randy would make an excellent addition to this board. I urge you to vote for her appointment. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Nina Agarwal.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much to everyone who's taken the time to put themselves out there. I appreciate all of your efforts, and I'm so glad we have a good panel of candidates. I'm here to express my support for Katie Dieck. Katie has been, a good friend of mine even prior to being in this district. I've known her for many years, and coincidentally this year, her daughter joined the GATE program with my oldest son. I have 3 children in the school district, and I've had the pleasure and the privilege of knowing Katie, as an advocate for so many different things. We connected because our children suffer from life-threatening food allergies, and we've always been talking about how can we make schools more inclusive with their food policies, and we're constantly advocating for our kids. And in fact, this year, one thing that stands out to me is how Katie just came together when we had College Park had to celebrate their Mooncake Festival, and how we got together as a team and just found all the safe ingredients and tried to make it super inclusive for everyone. And this is what Katie does. She just advocates hard. She'll get it done. We had very little notice, and she just made it happen, just really quickly. She just knows the needs, and she'll step in at any time. And so I'm grateful to know her. I know she'll do a great job, advocating for everyone, and anyone that's, not as represented. She's always there to listen. She has a great listening ear, extremely organized. She's a room parent for the GATE classes. I see so many communications coming from her. She has many, like someone else mentioned, spreadsheets, completely organized, keeps everyone engaged and in the know of what's happening. She's not afraid to just get in there and do what's needed to be done. And, I appreciate that she's, the first person I thought of when I heard that this position was open is I reached out to her and I said, hey, you'd be amazing for this position. And I'm so happy that she took this on. And again, I'm just really, really happy to advocate that you consider Katie strongly as the next board member for this position. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations to everyone for putting themselves out there. I greatly appreciate it. And I know whoever will step up into the position will do a great job. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Paige Liu. Paige, if you could unmute your mic. In the interest of time, Paige, I will come back to you and I'll move on to our next speaker, Catherine Zell.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Zell, and I would like to express my support for Katie Dieck. I first met Katie when our daughters started kindergarten together at Meadow Heights several years ago. Katie is passionate about our schools, kids, and community. She is incredibly hardworking, smart, organized, enthusiastic, and a creative thinker and problem solver. And I think she would make a fantastic addition to the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
And Paige Liu, I'm going to allow you to talk again. Go ahead and unmute and begin when ready. And my apologies, Paige. I'm going to move on to our next speaker while you figure out your technical difficulties. I will keep your hand raised and come back to you. Diana Harlick, go ahead and begin when ready.
Good evening. I'm here tonight as a longtime district volunteer, local education administrator and researcher, and a research member of the district's Equity Task Force in support of Randy Painter. I've worked with Randy both professionally and in my capacity as a volunteer in the district over many years. I've experienced Randy to have a unique set of skills that make her especially qualified to be an impactful trustee. She has a deep, passionate, and enduring commitment to advancing education equity, grounded in her own lived experience as a Native American from Montana who has seen the transformational impact of education in her own life. Secondly, Randy brings a set of analytical skills that are extremely rare in school board trustees. She can connect data to policy and practice in a way few other individuals are able. In my many years as a professional in the public early childhood education space, I've encountered only a few professionals who can navigate the nitty-gritty details of education data and practice accurately, efficiently, and effectively, and Randy is one of them. In my time with the district, I've not met any other volunteer who has put in the time studying and understanding in a really, really deep way as great a variety of district issues as Randy has. Randy's commitment to this work is ready to hit the ground running. Any other candidate before you tonight will have a very, very steep learning curve, understanding the many complex and competing issues facing the district, and then integrating that with the broader California education policy and research knowledge. In closing, San Mateo-Foster City stands to gain the most from appointing Randy Painter as school board trustee. She understands district issues, has demonstrated time and again her deep and enduring commitment to this work and education equity broadly speaking, and will bring to the board a unique analytical skill set and understanding of data that is currently missing. I urge you to vote for Randy Painter. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Leah.
Hi, this is Leah. Thank you so much for having me and for allowing for this public comment. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this very important discussion topic. I also want to give my support to Randy Painter. I think in the last couple of years, we've seen some really unprecedented times with the pandemic, and it was really impressive to see how Randy really came to the front of that and came with creative ideas and was challenging the status quo with only one thing in mind: to really elevate the educational experience for all of our children. And really that's what it's about. When you talk about equity for this district, it's about elevating the children so that they can all reach their individual potential. And she is incredibly well suited to that and has shown that with the time and energy that she has spent working with this district throughout the years. Thank you very much.
And our last public speaker, Paige Liu. And please unmute and begin when ready.
Why don't we go ahead and close public comment?
Thank you, President Watkins, and back to you.
So much. Righty. Just as a reminder, we will now move on to all of the trustees announcing top 3 finalists. If there's any board discussion or any questions that folks have about the process, we can do that briefly now, but that's our next kind of item. Again, thank you to all of the candidates for being here, for throwing your hat in the ring, for taking the time, for being committed. I remember saying this when we did appointments 4 years ago, which is, you know, I encourage everyone that is throwing their hat in the ring now to stay involved, to keep coming to meetings, to continue learning about what's happening in the district. There's so much that we all can do, not just from here, right? And so I really hope that everyone continues to stay super engaged and involved. You all have shown immense dedication and commitment just by being here and putting your hat in the ring for this position. And so I hope that folks continue to stay involved and engaged. So with that do we?
Well, I don't envy you because you're only halfway there.
Right.
We all just heard 9 really awesome speeches, and the testimonials were also really nice to hear them. Each will list their 3 finals. I'll keep notes here, and we can calibrate after. And then if folks have 2 school board members that identify them as a finalist, they become our finalists.
Yep. Anyone that would like to start? You're welcome to give context or not.
I can go and I will give no context just since we've heard a lot. So I'm just gonna name my top 3 and they're just in order of when people went in line. So I have James Sell, Maggie Trin, and Randy Painter.
Maggie, Randy Painter, and Katie.
Wow, this is really tough. I'll give some context. I was in your seat basically 5 years ago, probably or so to this day or so, somewhere around this, give or take 30 days. And it was crazy. And so I do not sort of take this sort of decision lightly, because it was hard, and there were great candidates back then, and we have really great candidates today. I wish we picked more than 3. So I want to thank everybody for putting themselves out there. It's really hard to get up and actually speak publicly and be here and put yourself out there for the public for this position. I want to thank all the public members who spoke and supported the candidates, both here and online, and then also the various emails that we've all gotten in support of various candidates, because it just shows sort of the overall community of people who care about the school district. When we received, and then I also want to echo what President Watkins said, which is basically, I hope that, whatever decision we make, that you guys all still stay committed and still participate in the school district, because without your involvement, we aren't as great as we are in terms of the district as a whole. So what I find difficult in this situation is that we received our packets, or the applicants, just last week, and for a while we only had the actual applications, the only questions that you answered, just some 2-dimensional form. Here it is. And I went through it probably about 4 times, reading everybody's different sort of thought process and different qualifications. And if you ever look at my iPad, I have like different circles and different colors and everything else. And what it comes down to in terms of how I ranked people were, one, I looked for sort of experience, both in the school district itself, at the school sites, and also in the community. I also looked for knowledge of the district, both like the current issues and then currently that we do have 21 schools. A lot of times people only know about their specific school or what feeder school they go into the middle school. So I look for sort of a broad range of ideas there. And then I look for sort of the balance, sort of the background of the person and sort of what I think would the fit would be, as each of all come from different backgrounds. And so how would that person sort of fit? And it's hard. Again, I think that there's really, really good candidates. And my rankings have sort of changed from when I walked in here till tonight or till after the comments. But I will, my three will be Jim Sell, Maggie Trin, and Randy Painter.
Trustee Chen?
I'm not going to give context as trustee Chinda.
You actually said you can.
It's
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. I was like, my three will be Maggie, Jim, and Randy.
So by my notes, we have three finalists, Jim, Maggie, and Randy.
Are we ready? Should we just move forward?
We're going to take a break.
A break? Sounds good. Let's take a break.
Well,
I was thinking we would take a break after this, but
you want to do that?
I don't know. How do you feel? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Come on.
Are we just gonna move to the second?
I was just gonna do finalist round and then I was thinking after that we would do a break. It's okay. We'll take a break.
Whatever you want.
It's a 5-minute break. People gotta go to the bathroom. Right, guys, we are returning and will now be asking questions of the three finalists, Maggie, Randy, and Jim. So every trustee will have an opportunity to ask a question. It's fine if you want to pass. It's fine if you want to ask the same question to everyone. I'll just say if you want to ask the same question to everyone, please just indicate that now. If your questions are going to change by candidate, then you can just ask by candidate. We'll go in the same order that candidates, or maybe we'll go in backwards order. Oh, I don't know. We'll just go in the same order. We'll just keep it simple. So Jim will be first. Before you come up, Jim, are there any board members that think they will be asked or that plan to ask the same question of all candidates? Jen, what's your question?
So I want to just ask the same question now to give, obviously, Jim, who's going first, a little bit heads up first, so that therefore that it's a little even playing field. But my question is, which you can address it at the beginning, you can address it throughout, whatever you want to address it, or you don't have to address it at all. It's your choices for all the candidates. The question is, in the next 2 years, what do you think is going to be the school district's biggest challenge and how would you help overcome it?
I think.
Hold on one second.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, you're ready. Thank you.
So that's trustee Chin's question. Trustee Brooks, are you going to ask different questions to different candidates or one question?
Maybe one question as it comes up.
Perfect.
Same, I'm in.
Okay, great. Same with me. Now, Jim, you can come on up to the podium, please. We'll start with trustee Chin's question and then other trustees may have questions.
Do we have a time limit or is it just free flowing?
That's a good question. Let's do 2 minutes per question, just so we can move things along. So we'll do 2 minutes per question on the clock. Superintendent Ochoa, thank you so much. Trustee Chin, start with your question again, please.
Oh, sorry. In the next 2 years, what do you think is going to be the school district's biggest challenge and how would you help overcome it?
I think that you have two challenges, I think, and they're both very worthy challenges. The community school in North Central. And I have followed your progress on that over the past couple of years and have been involved in that issue for over 15 years. We got started in advocating for a extra bus for the kids who are bused out of the North Central neighborhood to the community schools. The teachers in those schools identified the need for extra help for those kids. But because there was only one bus to and one bus away, they couldn't do it after school. There was no opportunity to take care of that issue. We were successful. The school board in 2007 voted extra money for the principals to ask for the extra bus, and then the Great Recession happened, and that wiped out everything. And so we were also involved in the Proposition bond issue X that was a result of the school bond being turned down prior to that. I think it was P. And the issue was diversity. And it became fairly obvious that the 500 to 600 kids that were being bused out of the neighborhood on a daily basis to 8 other schools were not, and we had had because of our grandkids, we participated in some programs in the classroom. And we saw that it was impossible for the teacher to give special attention to these kids, hence the gap.
Trustee Proctor or Trustee Brooks?
I can ask a question, just starting first with a statement, but thank you for your continued engagement in our district and being such an advocate for the school in North Central and just in general helping support our schools and students. So I wanted to thank you for that. I think one unique area that you would bring to the board is you're not a current parent, you don't have young children, you're essentially a community member at large. And I'm just curious if you have any strategies of finding more people like you and how we can bring the community into our school district to engage and participate in the process.
I think we are involved in social justice issues, and the education gap is probably one of the most critical. Is that if children cannot read and perform in school, by the time they're in the 3rd grade, they become bored, they become uninterested, and so the opportunity for them to succeed in our society becomes diminished. And so there are a lot of people in the community, if they are aware of those issues. We all love our children and we all want them to succeed. And I think they would become more energized. And because as a community, we want to succeed as a community. And we love our children, but we also care about all the other ones also.
So I want to thank you for your application, and you actually, my question was focused around social justice and you answered it. So I don't have a question at this time.
I think also it's, people are becoming more sensitive in this area, the question of housing. And housing is a factor in the education process, because I know it's difficult. Two of my children are educators, one in the San Mateo High School District and one in the Millbrae School District. And the affordability issue makes it difficult to retain teachers. Young teachers can't live with their parents forever. And it's getting to the point where two teachers cannot afford working together, both salaries. It's difficult to start a family and make San Mateo part of their community. So housing, affordable housing leads to problems in education, and expensive homes make it difficult for parents from the lower social economic group to remain in San Mateo.
Thank you so much, Jim, for your application. And as Trustee Proctor shared, just being a community member that's been involved in this district for a really long time and really committed to so much of the important equity work that this board is committed to. So I just really value that. I'm curious if there are any recent board policy decisions that you have disagreed with.
No, I haven't. I followed.
Oh, stop it.
I think in particular the strategic plan. I think you have published the information. You have provided the data that the community, for the most part, is not aware of. If their kids are doing well in school, they think everything is fine. But you publish the information by ethnic group, by economic group, the ones who are doing well, ones who are doing okay, and ones who are not making it. And it's clear that the system is not working for everybody. And that it's a process, and we know that, or I believe that processes can be analyzed and taken apart in the pieces, and you find solutions that work, and test them. Being a large district, you have access multiple ways to test new ideas, and so I think it's a great time for San Mateo School District.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Next up will be Maggie. Taking it off with Trustee Jim.
Sure, okay. Sorry. Hi. In the next 2 years, what do you think is going to be the school district's biggest challenge, and how would you help overcome it?
So there's two that I have seen sort of bubble up in my conversations with people around this whole board and this position. One is the achievement gap that we have made some strides towards. I think, we need to continue to do that work. Another thing that I've also been hearing about is, and I hope this isn't, we have to be able to walk and chew them at the same time, right? We have a lot of priorities that we're focusing on as outlined by the strategic plan. And there's also mental health and mental wellness. I think, we're coming out of the pandemic. There's still a lot of those effects that we haven't really worked through. And so the way that I can help with those, I won't pretend to be an expert on educational data or mental health, but what I do bring is a willingness to listen and to learn from the people who are experiencing those effects from whatever the challenges may be, and to work in good faith towards trying to meet people where they are and to give them the support that they need.
Dr. Trustee Brooks.
I'm formulating my question in my mind. If you have yours ready, you can jump in, but
I can jump in if you guys aren't ready.
well, I think, yeah, no, it's in my mind. Okay, so thank you for your application and your time today. And I know you mentioned that your children,
two children,
kids attend a Title I school, and so I'm just curious. and obviously we don't have anyone on the board currently that has kids at a Title I school. What are you looking at? What are you thinking in terms of the biggest areas that are currently not addressed in our school, I guess, school district, school board policies that you intend to bring and highlight here so that we can make sure that we're addressing all the needs there as well?
Well, I want to, before I will say that I have certain experiences at my school that I can speak to, but I also don't want to overgeneralize because there are other Title I schools. And so, before making any formal recommendations, I would want to speak to people at those schools as well. One of the things that I've noticed at my school is we have a high percentage of English language learners. And I know that there have been some strides made towards, getting more resources on campus to get the kids up to speed in just comprehension. Because if you don't have comprehension, how are you going to read the problem or be able to answer the problem? And a lot of that is happening at the earlier grades. And of course, there are children in the upper grades that will also have that problem. But if we can narrow that gap at the earlier grades, that is, one thing that we can really do to improve outcomes. Another thing that's happening at Sunny Bray is that they've started preschool I think they've opened 2 classrooms, I want to say. And I think that that's an incredible idea. I know that we've gotten funding for that. And I think that that's something that I would love to see if for those families that don't have the resources to pay for private preschool, that they at least have something where they're getting their kids into a learning environment early.
The areas that we serve can, be vastly different from area to area. And because we are serving such a diverse group of families and individuals with different needs across the board, is there anything in particular that you have identified that you are able to bring in terms of specialty to the district, in terms of something you would like to see, you would like to introduce to the district and to the kids?
What do you mean, like from a policy perspective, or?
It could be from a policy perspective, but more of something that you're ambitious about, something that you see that is underserved.
Yeah, I mean, I've, in talking to other parents, for example, right now we have a lot of construction at our school, and maybe this is, overly ambitious, but I would love to see more green spaces at our schools that are, and it will kind of depend on a school to school basis, but green spaces are really incredible for children's development. They serve as a calming space. They're a way for teachers can use those spaces to teach a variety of different things. So, anything from English language development, describe this leaf or describe, what you see happening in this space. It's also really good for math and science, obviously, just the life cycle of plants and that sort of thing. It's just, and I think kids today, they're often in front of screens a lot. They're, and, it can be a place that they can just kind of calm down, ground themselves, and learn those skills to self-soothe and to be, I mean, that's one thing that I would love to see more of. I know that there is a lot of changes happening on the facility level, and just to get more, by depending on what school sites are interested in and what they feel would be valuable to them, I would love to see more of that.
Thank you for for just all of your involvement at Sunnybray, and you know, you had a lot of people speak on your behalf, so you clearly made an impact in the community. I know that you've been kind of really involved locally at Sunnybray and the work that's happening there. I'm curious if you could speak a little bit to the ways in which you kind of plugged into district level decision making, and just work at the district level in addition to that.
Sure. I mean, I will admit most of my work has been with Sunnybray, but I see a lot of familiar faces here. I've talked to the superintendent, just in our communications with community meetings at the school. I've been part of interviewing panels for our administration at the school, and so I've gotten to interface with a number of people at the district level, and just getting to know, you know, what are the, and then also participating in the community school planning workshops and meeting people that way and getting to know all the different ways that district staff, you know, supports the students. That's definitely something that I would, you know, is, so my focus has been more at the site level, but I would love to, you know, get more involved with district level comings and goings.
Thank you so much, Maggie.
Thank you.
Ready?
Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm up first here. Hi, in the next 2 years, what do you think is going to be the school district's biggest challenge, and how would you help overcome it?
So I had the luxury of being able to think about this a little bit, but you know, so the answer that I'm going to give is what's going to be the biggest challenge on top of what are already the challenges that the district is facing and is dealing with, right? And so, I mean, there's, you know, the stuff that has already come out, the ongoing right opportunity gap, achievement gap. There's the well-being, right, post-pandemic, and the ongoing well-being issues. But the new thing that I think that it's going to be coming, and it's as a result of the pandemic, is we're going to lose ESSER funds in the next 2 years, if I understand the timing correctly. And so we're going to have to deal with the budgetary, I guess, ramifications of what that means. And so what will I do? Well, look to Patrick, look to Allison, look to Patrick, have a whole team, look to experts that that can tell us about what these budgetary impacts are, and then work together as a governance team, right, to prioritize and figure out how do we restructure things, right? Because there's been things that you've been able to do that maybe are not going to be able to continue. So I think that's the biggest thing on top of everything else.
Trustee Brooks.
I just want to thank you for your application, and I don't have any questions. I've heard a lot of your and they're amazing. And you are definitely great. You would be a great contribution, but thank you for your application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. It's nice to see you again. I think one of the reasons that it's hard to come up with a question is because we know you and you're always here, right? So we know what you think. But I guess my question would be, could you talk a little bit about, because you know each of us and you've known us to be up here. How do you envision, I guess, working as a team together? How do you intend to like build relationships as a governance team with all of us and like find your space that we all can gel together and obviously not agree on everything, but like basically how do you plan to like fit in and be one of us and work together?
Yeah, right. So, you know, I look at this team and I see, and I'm going to make some like really gross characterizations, right? I mean, I see a businesswoman, a small businesswoman. I see an urban planner, right? I see an educator. I see an accountant, right? These are all, this is great diversity in terms of occupation. I see diversity in terms of life experience. And there is some diversity that I think that I bring that could really augment this team. Diversity in life experience and diversity in terms of skills, diversity in terms of training that could really help out. So, I mean, you guys know a lot about me kind of in an advocacy perspective because I've been willing to speak up and you know, that role would, I would not be that, have that role anymore. As on this board, I understand that, you know, that there aren't really individuals anymore when it comes to making decisions. You need to figure out, I mean, you need to do your board goals. You need to figure out how to discuss things, how to work together. And when the board makes a decision, then you go forward with that as a unified voice, right? And yeah, and I totally commit to doing that. And I respect that I've seen that in action. And yeah, yeah,
thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a, I guess, question that kind of builds on that, but just, you know, I just want to thank you for continuing to throw your hat in the ring. I think it's really easy for people to sit on the sideline and complain and talk about all of the things that aren't going well, and you have not been that person for the entire time that I've been on the board, from just advocating at board meetings to throwing your hat in for the appointment when Trustee Chin was appointed to running for office and now being here again, just continuing to say I want to be involved, to be a part of the solution. So I really do appreciate that. You know, you have been deeply involved. You know this district inside and out. You know the issues, you know the policies. You definitely could come up here tonight and, like, I'm sure, you know, ready to hit the ground running, probably, like, I don't know, maybe better than some of us in some ways. And, you know, you also disagreed with some of the things that we have done as a board, and have, you know, not been shy about calling that out, or even calling out sometimes individual board members or staff at times. And, you know, I feel like our board, despite disagreements, has really maintained a commitment to really having respectful rapport and disagreement. And so I'm wondering if, as you think about back on kind of your engagement and involvement, is there anything you can think of that you would have done differently? And what will be your approach to disagreement on the board?
So, you know, I said this during my campaign, and I said this in my application. As a board member, my role will be completely different. As a board member, I will listen a lot more than I will talk. I see that as my job, as my role. I would also see my role as to, you know, we may agree, we may disagree, but also within a governing body, to do so respectfully and absolutely commit to doing that. And And then going forward in a unified fashion with the decisions that the governing board has made. And that's just my my commitment.
Is there anything looking back to the first part of the question that you, as you reflect back, that you would have done differently?
I feel like that there's some sort of like repentance that is I'm being asked to make, but I guess I would need to know like what specific, I'm not recalling whatever it is that you have in mind. So if you could tell me what you have in mind.
No, I don't have something in mind. I'm just thinking, I mean, I think just my initial question was kind of prefaced with that there have been disagreements and there have been times where, you know, you've specifically named kind of board members or staff in sort of the way in which you disagreed. And I'm just wondering as you think about that as a potential transition into this role, if you think about if there's anything that you would have done different in that approach. And the answer to that question could be no.
Yeah, I don't think that that's been the case, or I think that we might not be remembering things the same way, but if there is, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, it is time for us to select somebody. So I'll just make a few kind of comments going into that, one of which is, you know, we have written materials that we can use in thinking about a decision. We have kind of people's overarching first round statements that we can take into consideration. And then we have responses to questions that we just asked that we can take into consideration. I also do just want to hold up like the seat that we are filling now was formerly Trustee Corzo, now Supervisor Corzo's seat. And so as we think about ways in which we're wanting to fill and avoid that, I think we all desperately, at least I guess I can speak for myself, you know, she definitely has left a void in our board and in our district. And so I think for me, at least, that's something that I'm holding as we think about this decision. So I'm realizing we didn't kind of create a process. Superintendent Cho is on it.
All heard these finalists, they're all excellent. What will come down to, from a process standpoint with the board, is for one of the 4 board members to make a motion to consider somebody for the appointment to the position. So you look at the agenda language in your online in the board agenda, and one of the 4 of you recommend one of these candidates, at which point in time, if somebody seconds that recommendation among the boards in discussion before calling for a vote, the successful candidate needs 3 votes in order to be provisionally appointed to the board. So you won't be doing any new ranking or any eliminating, you just go through a voting process with a motion, a second, discussion, and then potential approval.
Great, thank you, Superintendent Cho. Is there anybody that would like to make a motion?
None of them.
You always look at me. So I'm always the one who I
always feel your eyes burning into the side of my
No one in the audience can make it, and I can't make it.
And also,
So that
there's
leaves
2 of
the
you in
4
this
of you.
direction.
Thank you.
I will
do
equally
see
look
the-
at all of you. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Maggie.
So the motion would state to
Make a provisional.
make a provisional appointment to the Board of Trustees, and let's use her full name, Maggie Trick.
Are there any seconds? I will second that. Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second.
Discussion.
Discussion. I'm not looking at trustee Jeff.
I'm looking at me.
Because you look at me. I can discuss.
Yeah,
So
let's discuss.
I think so first of all, my thought process is like all three candidates are really qualified, and I think that we would be lucky to have any one of these three on our school board and join us for the next 2 years, however long it is. I think that everyone has something unique that they bring to the board. I think, I said I think a million times, so I'll just say it. Maggie is an attorney. I think that's a unique skill that we don't have on this board. She has children at a Title I school. She is in the neighborhood that is an area that's currently not represented on this school board. And so I think that she would be a good fit and would bring some representation to several different groups of people that would be good for us. I'm not looking at you.
She made the most.
I know. Okay. I will make a comment. Sorry, it happens when we sat with each other for a long time on this board. I'll make a comment. I do appreciate everybody's. I think both Randy, Maggie, and Jim were the three that I had put up during our first round. I think each of you guys would be very good. Randy, with everything that you brought forward, you know, the one thing that I respect about you is like persistence. I think of council member Patrick Truman, who ran several times before he was on the city council. Sullivan. Sorry, John. Sorry, John. And sorry, Patrick, because you know you might be listening. I also think of Councilwoman Lisa Diaz-Nash, who put her name in as well. I think you would definitely bring a lot to the table, and I do respect that, the persistence to be on. Jim, I also respect your commitment to this community as well. I think that your commitment to the conversations about North Central and your history and what we will be doing in terms of switching the schools and that constant sort of focus on that, I do appreciate that as well. And so I thank you for that as well. Maggie, I think you'd be fantastic at this position as well. I think you do bring something different to the table. Again, you guys were all three were my choices for after round one, and I'll be happy to support the motion.
All the comments? I don't think I have comments.
You can do a roll call.
I think I've said a lot of things already. No, I mean, I'll just echo again. Like I agree with what my fellow trustees have said. I think everyone, you know, you all were my three top choices as well. After the first round, I think that I remember watching City of San Mateo, and that's, you know, that appointment process, and it's so hard. There's so many qualified, incredible people in our community that you know, could serve on this board and do an incredible job for the students and families and communities in this district. And I think every single person that threw their hat in the ring genuinely wants to do that. And I'm so grateful that we have so many people in our community that are willing to step up to the plate and do the hard work.
You know, I mean, I joked about this being glamorous. It's, you know, it's not, right? And so it's hard. And like, we're all here because we care about the kids and the families and the educators and the staff in this district. And so, you know, for you all that are watching on this, you know, the side, you know, watching kind of all of that happen and then still want to get involved, it's just like, really grateful for all of that. Yeah, these are hard decisions. So we will have an election again in 1.5 years though. For 3 seats, 2 seats, 3 seats. So for everyone that's those that are in this round and those who are not, there's another opportunity to get involved, and there's always opportunities to get involved with the district and the site level. So I'll stop talking now because I'm not adding much else. So we'll do a roll call vote. We have a motion on the floor to nominate Maggie Trin to the board. We'll start with Trustee Brooks. Just yes or no? Yes, no,
Yes.
yes, yeah. Trustee Chen?
Yes.
Trustee Proctor?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Congratulations, Maggie. She gets sworn in. All right.
If you can call the item.
Oh, yes. Item 5B, swearing in and administration of oath of office to provisional board member if appointed.
You can stand at the podium.
Okay.
I'm gonna read it to you as slowly as I can, make sure we get it. This is an oath of office for a school board member with the San Mateo-Foster City School District in the county of San Mateo. I state your name.
Maggie Trin,
Repeat after me. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution
that I will support and defend the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
of the United States and of the State of California. Oh, thank you.
against all enemies,
Against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution
and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Take this to your colleague who's sitting right next to you. And you're gonna stick around for the rest of this meeting.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, we'll take a short 5-minute break before we go back. All right, thank you. And welcome to Maggie. We're so excited to have you. We are going to move on to 5C, which is approval of the Equity Task Force Resolution, which we reviewed at our last meeting. Superintendent Ochoa, over to you if there's anything.
In keeping with the board's process to consider resolutions, to deliberate about those resolutions, to have substantial time for the public to view the resolution, reach out to the board, send comments to the district. Tonight's Phase 2 Equity Task Force resolution is from the school district administration, a very strong recommendation that the board approve this resolution. To comment briefly on the process of having a pre-existing resolution dating back years that began a series of reforms that have brought us to the point that we're at this school year, and acknowledging that in order to create more equity, new strategies and recommendations are needed. And those recommendations are reflected in this resolution. Many thanks to Board President Watkins, our Director of Equity, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, and many others who engaged, participated, gave feedback, and then also just in the public process over these last 30 days, being able to review the content. This resolution is very exciting, and the possibilities for creating more equity in this district as a result of this resolution are substantial. For those reasons, we strongly recommend that the board approve this resolution this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent Ochoa. We'll open it up to the board now for any clarifying questions. Seeing none, turning it over to our dwindling audience. Any public comment? Okay. Forrest, if you want to open up, I suppose I can open, whatever. Forrest, if you want to open up public comment on Zoom.
Thank you, President Watkins, and good evening. I'm calling on speakers to make public comment in a random order, and you will have 3 minutes to make your public comment. Please use the raise hand functionality within Zoom now. Also, if you are dialing in, you may dial *9 to raise your hand using the function within your cell phones. We'll begin with Jean McKenna, and go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. 20th percentile. If we look at our district's middle school math scores for economically disadvantaged Hispanic Latino students across California, our district is at the 20th percentile. It means 80% of other districts do this better than we do. We only help 10% of students in this group meet or exceed standards. It's clear we all know this isn't acceptable. Therefore, it's great to see we're focused on ways to achieve better outcomes for all students. It's great to see a document like this, which brings attention and focus to these efforts. It says we're not satisfied with where we are and we'll work hard to bring about change. It's been great to see the extra dollars and resources going into math to bring about this change. I'm proud to be a volunteer in the Math 7 room at Burrell and be given an opportunity to help make a difference. However, once we set a goal for ourselves, we will all feel pressure from both ourselves and our community to demonstrate progress towards those goals. There's an easy way to demonstrate progress towards this goal, and we've seen many other schools, after setting equity goals, give in to the temptation to press the easy button. The easy button is lowering standards. I'm glad I've not heard anyone on this board suggest we do that. I believe you are all on board with improving achievement against our high standards. You all believe our students can get there and we as a community can get there. I think you all believe setting the bar high and holding ourselves accountable to reaching it is the best way for all to learn. But let's not leave the temptation of the easy button to chance. We've seen other districts, both at middle school and high school level, press the easy button. Last week, there was a Wall Street Journal article about one such California school doing just that. Because that is not our intent, let's be explicit about it. Let's add to this equity plan a clear condition that equity will not be achieved by lowering standards or removing challenging courses. If this is indeed the board's intent, let's give to the district staff and teachers the clarity of this explicit guidance. With clarity, they can better achieve the goal. Let us build trust within our community. Let's give the community the confidence of this explicit guidance. With trust and confidence, we can move forward together. For our staff, our community, and mostly for our students, please amend the equity statement to say, it is not our intent, nor do we support achieving more equitable outcomes by lowering standards or removing challenging coursework. Indeed, these are the very things we need to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. And President Watkins, back to you. There are no other members of the audience that would like to make a public comment.
Great, thank you. Opening up to board discussion, if there are any folks that want to make this, make any comments, and then this is up for a vote. Comments? See, I will need a motion. Make the motion pass. I will second that. Thank you, Trustee Brooks, for the motion, Trustee Parker for the second. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Motion passes 5-0.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 6A, approval for resolution for reduction of classified services for 2023-24.
Okay, so unfortunately, it says that the host has disabled my ability to share.
He can hear you.
Sorry.
If you project, they'll be able to hear you say that.
Well, I will speak to you about it. Unfortunately, I cannot show it to you. So HR brings you tonight two resolutions and an informational item for your consideration. The first resolution is the resolution for reduction of classified services. That will be in the amount of 20.98 FTE. And so of those 20.9 FTE, those folks are various paraprofessionals, their office assistants, and all of those positions are currently this year being funded by our amazing PTAs. The reason that we need to reduce at this point in the year is due to education code, and that we must notice anyone that may be reduced for next year by March 15th. And so at this point in the year, we don't know funding from our PTA for next year. And you know, it's what I guess we call soft money at this point, but our PTAs will be informing us shortly about funding for next year. So with that said, let's see. I think at this point, I'm just going to ask if you would approve. We're going to recommend that you approve this resolution, knowing that it may result in some reduction of force.
Thank you. Clarifying questions from the board?
I have a question. So this is, I'm new to this. Something that we do every year.
Yes, this is something that happens annually in most school districts. About 4 years ago, Ed code changed with classified.
If we can just pause, I want the public to be able to see the item. Joe, if you can, yeah.
So I'm just blocked.
Let's just.
Well, they have it online, right?
It is online.
Yeah.
It is online. Anyone who's listening in the audience can just go to the agenda item, and where it says 6A under HR, they can click on the resolution. They can also click on the attachment.
The question answered. Yeah, I had a follow-up question. Yeah. So the staff that's notified, is it then possible that they would continue, like once the PTA budgets are in, that then they would be told, yes, we still have money for you?
Absolutely. So at this point, we have to be fiscally responsible, and we have to also follow the education code, which says we need to release by March 15th. But we don't have any way of knowing at this point whether PTA will or will not fund for next year. Historically, they have been able to fund these positions, and if they are able to fund the positions, we will not give final notice for layoff for anybody.
Can I ask a question also? Have we determined that this is not an expense that the school district can just take on? I mean, it doesn't seem like the best strategy to have the PTAs fund these positions, especially if they're positions that we think are necessary in our school district. And so I'm just wondering what efforts have we made to try to see if we can absorb this into our own budget.
Yes, I understand. In terms of equity, these are all positions that are above the district funding levels. So each school is allocated different positions. Oh, thank you so much, Joe. Different positions, and you know, at this point, this would be above what other schools are receiving.
All right, we will now turn it over to public comment. We have one public comment in the audience. Amy?
So can we have a make it a little bigger so that people could, you know?
Yep, go ahead. Thanks. Since I'm here, I figured I'd speak twice. But thank you very much. I know many of you, but actually I don't know if you know, I'm the PTA Council Treasurer this year. And so I get lots of questions and I'm learning that job. I've been a PTA President for 3 years, do that job really well. But when I saw this on the agenda, looking at it last night, I actually had a whole bunch of thoughts, and having lived the experience for 3 years of being in a PTA that did fund staff positions and being on a PTA that had to make the choice to not fund staff positions at one point, I do think it's an interesting point of looking at this. So I wanted to point out a couple of things that I think are really important to notice here, and I do super appreciate the acknowledgement that $1 million of PTA funding from our schools covers critical staff positions is a huge burden on PTAs for fundraising. And that doesn't mean that every one of those staff members isn't amazing, needed, and probably more is needed. So, but knowing that every dollar that goes to that is somebody's like out of pocket from our family funding, and knowing how hard funding can be at some schools versus others, but even schools that have a lot of money, they're covering a lot of things that other schools don't have to cover because they get support for that. So I think it's a really important thing that I just felt like I wanted to be able to say, and knowing that the volunteers that run PTA are hard to come by, are hard to fill, especially treasurer jobs, as most PTAs are ready to be going, what do we do if we don't have a treasurer? What do we do if we don't have fundraising chairs? I just think it's a really big challenge. And the other thing I want to point out is that it's actually PTA guidelines to not be able to make commitments for your budget for the future year until that year. The process for PTA budgeting is that you make a provisional budget in June, you approve it so that you can write checks over the summer, but you're supposed to have that new board be the one that is engaging, and your new association reappoints that. I totally understand though, because I've been in the situation of needing to decide on this and be involved and be the president signing the commitments. We have to sign these in the spring. So we've had other PTA presidents writing to us being like, well, aren't I in violation of my PTA guidelines if I'm going to commit, you know, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 for staff positions that I'm agreeing to the district to pay? And when you sign those contracts with the district, it has this clause that says, oh, by the way, if the salary goes up, if there's a cost of living increase, that burden gets put on the PTA, even if that's higher than what the agreement was. So PTAs have had in times, they get their bill throughout the year, and then they get an additional bill that usually falls outside the next year. And then they're just stuck having these budgeting challenges, catching up, maybe having a bigger fundraising burden than they were expecting, even if all what they want to do is have that art teacher there, or have that extra librarian time, or have those amazing pairs in the classroom. And so I just think it's a tough situation. I know there's the side of things that have to do with staff, and nobody wants to lose a really critical staff. So PTAs get put in really tough spots. The school district's in a tough spot. So I just felt like it was another voice to repeat that. And just one last thing, because I was just in contact with our PTA Council president, and I think that I so appreciate that you've added PTA Council this meeting. I don't know if that will be a continued thing. I would love to see that. I would have loved to see that for years in the past, because I think PTA Council is like a small entity representing everybody, but it represents all our amazing PTAs, no matter if they have a lot of money, a lot of people involved or not. But when the communication from the district comes about these jobs, they're going to the principal. They're not even coming to the PTA. And that's happened in the past, where the communication about what things might be going on, like even this wonderful art program. I was so fortunate to be at the Cafe Con Diego this week to hear about it, but PTAs hadn't been told, and a lot of them are already budgeting, or may have even had to make commitments to the art program that they usually fund. So I'd love to help engage in more communication directly with PTAs, so that if it's through PTA Council, we can get the messaging out, because all of our PTA volunteers are amazing, and so many of them are new every year, and it's a big learning curve. So thank you for all you do, and thanks for listening. Thank you so much, Amy. We'll turn it over to public comment on Zoom. Forrest.
Thank you, President Watkins. If there's any members in the audience that would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand functionality within Zoom now, and you will be granted 3 minutes to make your comment. Apologies in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Our first commenter, Marissa, go ahead and begin when ready.
I promise at my next meeting I'll speak as less. I'll agree with everything Amy said, and just one other comment to the point she made about principals receiving the notice for the MOUs we need to sign. I know at least one unit only got that notice today through no fault of anybody. Everybody's overworked. But if it could go directly to PTA when it goes to the principals, I think you'll get more timely signatures going forward, even though we do have to budget next year. In the following year, we are routinely signing them early.
Thank you. And our next public commenter, Marcella. Go ahead and begin when ready. You will have 3 minutes to make your comment.
Hi,
We lost you, Marcella.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. So as a parliamentarian of a PTA board, I appreciated Amy's commenting that we are being asked to make a promise that is in violation of our bylaws. We had the exact situation she mentioned about salary increase causing major budgeting concerns within our PTA. And I also appreciated the clarity that and the comment that was made at the beginning of the board meeting, just kind of letting people know, because this has to feel very scary and of concern for our classified staff who are going to receive these notices. But another piece, and Trustee Proctor asked this question, and I think that kind of gets at the heart of a concern that I have about PTA funding these positions, is that it is indicative of money that is being spent out of pocket by our families. And I would be really curious, since we have this number, I'd be very curious from an equity standpoint to know who's being supported at what schools and how that varies from current staffing levels. I do think that PTA funding is amazing. I am an active supporter of both PTAs that my children's schools, and I also am very concerned about equity issues when parent dollars or sponsor dollars are brought into public schools to make up for gaps that exist. It means that the people that can push or the people that can raise the most money end up getting the most resources. And I know that is antithetical to our district. So it would be interesting, I think, to at least do an audit and figure out what resources schools are actually receiving, because I don't think we have that in clear sight as compared to our budget. Thank you.
And our last public commenter, Aya. Go ahead and begin when ready. You will be granted 3 minutes to make your public comment.
Thank you. I just want to echo the previous commenter about looking at what schools are able to fund positions and what schools aren't, especially being at a Title I school. I know our PTA works, tirelessly, but they still are only able to work with the resources they have. And that is very limiting. And definitely looking across the district. And if these are true needs, that would be something that long-term we should probably look at funding so that this isn't happening every year. Because these are the people who support our students. And if this is what we need to help close those equity gaps and help students succeed, then that should be in our strategic plan and that should be part of our priority. And that goes along with making sure that our employees are district employees so that everyone's getting equal pay. And we're not constantly contracting out to agencies where we're losing control over the people we work with, but also we're paying totally unequitably. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the public comments. Now opening it back up to board discussion.
I would like to just say that I have been a PTA president and treasurer, and other positions, but I can't stop. It is so stressful as a PTA president to have to, essentially you raise money each year and you run out by the end of the year. Like you're budgeting, you're stretching every dollar. And it's so stressful to commit to something in the spring for next year, not knowing if parents are going to be supportive, if parents have the money to contribute to meet these budget requirements for a PTA. I can only imagine how stressful it is for the employees that are on this list also, that this is, you know, this is like something that if the PTA can't raise the money, you don't have a job. And actually, you probably do have a job because the PTA is committing to paying to this and now they're stressed and it's just, it's really hard. I think that, and as a school board member, I don't like the idea that we're like essentially saying these people, I don't know, don't matter enough to be like part of our budget where we're committing to saying that these are positions that matter, that we need these people to be have secure jobs and be here for our students. I would also be curious to see how the PTAs are raising these monies and how it's being spent by school. And then, you know, I guess one idea would be, okay, maybe a school that is able to afford this pays from the PTA funds for this, where maybe a Title I school has federal funding or other funding to pay for this position. But I'm just curious, like everyone else said, how the money is being allocated, what schools these positions are serving. And I don't know, I don't like the idea that every year that people in on these positions have to get a notice that says you may not have a job here, because we value everybody and I want everyone to feel secure in their employment here.
Yeah, I think, you know, this is something that is definitely routine, as you've shared, something that we do every year. And I think what we're hearing from the board and from comments, in my mind, I'm seeing kind of two things that we need to have further conversation or agenda items on. I think one is around staffing and just staffing. Like, I think it would be helpful. It sounds like it would be helpful to have an overview around like how we're making decisions about what staffing is essential at various schools and how we're making decisions around what's PTA funded, what's kind of central to the district funded positions, so that the board just has, and the public has a better sense of kind of that process. So I'll add it when we go down the future agenda items, but it sounds like there's benefit to that. Separate from that is a conversation around PTA funding and the inequities that are embedded within PTA funding, which is something I'm super interested in us tackling as a board, and really thinking about how we begin to break that down. And I think those are two kind of separate pieces. Like, how do we staff schools to meet the needs of kids, which, and I believe is like this is a district decision and priority versus a PTA one. And then there's a piece around PTA funding. So I'll just say that, like, I think by way of process, this is something we need to do for this year, but I think as we think about what this looks like moving forward, right, like there's opportunities to make adjustments to how we do this. So I would just propose that we come back with those two things to allow district staff to have opportunity to provide more information around those pieces for us to discuss and think about what that means for policy and decision making moving forward.
My interest around this eliminating staff is really understanding the history of these positions being funded over time. If it was previously funded by the district, and then when did it come out of that funding? Was it for an expected period of time? And then how do we know when it's when the budget is there to revert back for the budget to go back into the district's funding pot? These are very critical positions that are needed for our children. And I think that I agree with everyone here that we really need to look at this as a board and provide some security. It's very critical for the kids and and for the teachers as well.
So I'll try not to echo whatever else said, but I am in agreement. I know that this happens every year. I remember the first time I was on the board, it's sort of like, do we put out a notice that says, hey, we have to, by law, we have to notify everybody, was it 60, 90, or whatever days is, but we have to do that notice first and send those pink slips out well before the PTAs even raise the money. And so then it just causes this confusion. And we've had members of CSEA specifically come up and say, hey, and try and fight for their jobs. So it's really difficult because we're sort of trapped in this sort of bureaucracy where we have to notify per HR rules to that there may not be funding there. And then it makes the PTAs sort of like, gosh, we got to fund to make sure to keep everybody. And then it causes confusion within the community. We get emails and everyone else says, please save our jobs and everything else. And it's sort of all this red tape. So I understand where we are as a district and what we have to do, but I'm fundamentally sort of the opinion where I don't think PTAs should be fundraising for people specifically, for FTEs. Like that's not the job of PTAs. And I think, in my opinion, what has happened is that it's a sort of a legacy cost. You know, when you think about it, before, like just 6 years ago, we were deficit spending. We were in, the red. And, what happens is, you get these people are, we're going to lose jobs, and PTAs say don't, and you start raising all this money. And so then all of a sudden, everybody starts taking this on and it becomes this like habitual thing. New PTA presidents come in and new treasurers come in and be like, oh, we've always done this. So we keep on doing this. It's this constant sort of, rat race or circle, hamster wheel that we're all on. I would love, I know this is sort of jumping the gun too, but I was on the same thought. I would love for us to sort of talk about, and I will bring this up again in our future board meetings, but the idea is to bring the PTAs into the fold. Now that we've got the adopted strategic plan, talk about sort of alignment and say, what do we as a district want to fund? In my mind, the people, critical positions, and what should the PTAs fund if they want to fund? Like if it's the field trips, the art stuff. I mean, well, we're going to talk about art in the next item, but the different other things that PTAs would love, parents would love to get money for, right? It shouldn't be mainly for people. Sorry. My same.
You said art in the next agenda.
Yeah, I was
Art
like,
talks about
No, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, yes. But
I'm just giving you a hard time.
okay, you are, yes. This is what happens. And this is what happens when we have longer meetings. But the idea is that, my thought is that to get off of this sort of hamster wheel, if we need as a district to fund the positions for 1 year or maybe 2 years, and then give the PTAs enough notice to say, we are not funding after this, and you shouldn't be funding it either, then that gives them some time to sort of say, let's reprioritize, let's figure out what we're going to do. And then we can sort of get off this sort of hamster wheel going round and round. It also gives the idea of talking about art, which, sorry, yes, we already approved it. But the idea is, I know we had a public comment about the art, and the issue is we couldn't necessarily tell everybody, yeah, we're going to give all the PTAs money for art until we actually approved it, and that was tonight. And so now we can actually go to all the PTAs as they're fundraising, as they're bringing it up, and go to these meetings and say, hey, just FYI, the district is giving all this money, but we can't actually advertise that yet until we actually approve it. So I know that that's a little bit of a red tape 2 issue as well. So I would love for us to have some sort of serious conversation with PTAs about like what is like the critical need, the strategic plan, and how we fund. So I know we went a little bit related to this topic, but that's sort of my stance.
Any other board member comments?
I mean, just a quick one, which is that I agree this is not a great practice from an employment perspective, because you don't have the staff are not able to really buy into their role and to really feel invested, and especially these roles where they have so much contact with the families and the students, and they know those families and students really well. Those are the people that I really want to
see like stay at school. This item is up for a vote. Need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, trustee Chen for the motion, trustee Brooks for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, yeah?
Yes.
Great. I mean, not great. Moving on to the next. Sorry. Moving on to the next agenda item. I'm having a rough night. Review of skipping and tie breaking criteria.
Forrest, would you kindly show us 6B, please?
Yes, one moment while I pull up the information.
Thank you.
Okay, so for 6B, this is an informational item only. This is how we would break a tie for a certificated PKS reduction, which is going to be the next item on the list. And so this outlines skipping criteria. If we had any teachers that due to seniority were up to be, they were going to be not, excuse me, they were going to be laid off for particular kind of service. If that were the case and they were a math teacher, science teacher, SDC teacher, SLP, then we would be able to skip them due to the fact that they're in very high demand and specialized training. So that would be the skipping part of the criteria. The tie-breaking part is, you know, if we had two people that had the same seniority rates and all things were equal in terms of when they were hired, then we would look at the number of credentials they have, what kind of credentials they have, their education, their experience. We would look at district need. We would look at kind of the whole picture of the individual and decide from there how to break the tie. So this is informational. It's just so that we know how we would go about breaking the tie if we did indeed have one. Do you have any questions on this informational item?
Any more questions? We'll open it up to public comment. Any audience public comment? Horace, if you don't run up public comment on Zoom, please.
Yes, we do have one member of the audience that would like to make a public comment. Pierce, I'm going to bring you in to talk. You will have 3 minutes to make your comment. Begin when
Wonderful.
ready.
Thank you, Boris. And I don't know if it's of interest, but I'm happy to have my camera on, but no worries if that's extra steps. So I'm just sharing a question that I have in case the board cares to pass it on. And I may be off base here, but I once heard that the district, if they need to skip because of credentialing reasons, they can only do so if they're actively the teacher's actively using the credential. And that would just seem unfortunate for the district if that is the case. I would hope that the district could, if necessary, skip in order to retain, say, a math teacher who's currently working under an English language arts credential or something like that. But I don't know if I'm totally off base on that, and I don't know if the board actually shares my question, but just thought I'd share it in case you do. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Seeing no other hands raised. Diana, would you mind responding to that?
I don't mind at all. So in fact, this informational item does detail that the person needs to be using the credential in which we're skipping for. However, I think, you know, if it came down to it, common sense comes into play. And Kathy Pratt and I have an amazing relationship, and I would go to her and say, hey, we have, you know, X person that we would like to skip. If there was a really good reason for skipping that person, like district media is listed there, then we could work through that together.
Board comments on this item, which is for information only. We're not taking a vote on this. Right, moving on to 6C.
Forrest, would you display 6C for us, please? Thank you. Okay, so for 6C, that is the resolution for reduction of particular kinds of service for the 2023-24 school year. This is the certificated version of the classified reduction that we just discussed. And so it is similar in that we need to let people know by March 15th if they may be reduced in any way. And so we have some funding issues that have not been resolved yet because of the early date. So we have 3 FTE total that we're recommending for a reduction. It's 0.5 language and literacy, and we don't, that's the only one on this list that has to do with PTA funding, and we don't know if the PTA is going to be able to fund that position yet, but we expect to know shortly. The second one on there is 1.5 TOOP money, which is the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Fund. And we don't have a solid idea yet about how much money we will get. We will get grant money, but the dollar amount is not clear at this point, but should be in the near future. And then the third category is 1.0, and that position is also a TOSA position. These are all TOSA positions, I should state that, teacher on special assignment. And for that position, it's funded out of ESSA money, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act. And the school that position is assigned to was getting CSI money, and that money is expiring the end of this year. So that money is absolutely going away. And so that's the reason for the reduction on that particular position. With all of that said, we would like to recommend that the board approves this resolution.
Any board clarifying questions?
Quick question about especially the language and literacy. What happens if they're not able to raise the money, or if that position just goes away at that school?
So that particular position has 0.5 funding that is from PTA. The other half of that position is funded through district funds. It is one of our smaller schools, and so it's likely that they would just have 0.5 funding, which is what some of our other schools have. So in terms of equitable distribution, it would be just like some of the other schools that are the same size.
Any questions from the board? Any public comment in the audience? Audience or Zoom audience public comment, please, Forrest. I see one hand.
Yes, I do see one hand. Jen, I will be bringing you in to be allowed to talk. Go ahead and unmute and begin when ready. You will have 3 minutes to make your public comment.
Hi, I have been teaching in the district for a very long time. I just would like you to clarify where you're suggesting to cut. You've talked about a lot of things, so I'm unclear on what you're suggesting exactly where you should cut. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane, I don't know if there's anything you want to add in terms of public comment. I think Jen, in the supporting documents attached to each of the agenda items, so 6A and 6C, there's a list of the positions that are being cut pending PTA funding. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, Diana?
I think that's pretty clear. Thank you.
Great, thanks. This item is up for any board discussion on this. Similar to 6A. This is up for vote. Right. I will need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this item.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor, for the motion. Trustee Brooks for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are moving on to 7A, approval of the special education prioritization resolution. Which was also brought to us last month for information. Will Heather be providing on this?
There is online, so she'll join us in just a second. I'll get us started. Tonight's resolution is a very important next step for the school district. Going back several years when this district took on the Equity Task Force resolution in its initial form and the Sanctuary Task Force resolution, the Board of Trustees made some commitments and made some public pronouncements about what was important in the school district. And over the course of multiple years, I want to commend this board for keeping students with special needs at the forefront of the work in this district. But it was two members of this board, President Watkins, and at the time you were Vice President Watkins, and at the time board member Proctor was President Proctor, but two members of this board continued to surface the importance of having a special education resolution that assured in writing the steps that we would take as a school district to make permanent public changes that would positively affect students with special needs. So tonight's resolution is the second review that is part of a 30-day process in which this board reviewed the resolution at our last meeting, had an opportunity for public input, comment, board discussion. Over the last 30 days, this resolution has been out there. I've certainly heard about it from the educators and the families in this district. From my office, getting a lot of positive feedback about the message that it sends for us to pass a resolution specifically naming that as a district we need to do better and describing the strategies that we'll use in order to become better at serving students with special needs. For those reasons, I and the administration strongly recommend that the board approve this resolution, and Director Morgan is available for any questions should the board have any questions or the public have any questions for the board. And with that, I'll pass it back over to the board.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Ochoa. Are there any board clarified questions on this item? Any comment in the audience?
On the form again?
I mean, come on
You just raise your hand.
I'll just make a really quick public comment as a parent of a child with special ed needs, dyslexia, and having to have them now outside the district to get the education they need. I do appreciate the changes that have been made since Dato's been involved and Heather Morgan has. It obviously did not help for my child and my needs, nor our funding needs to support that. But I do appreciate that this is the kind of direction that the district's going in, especially and hoping more for dyslexia screening and other things. Thanks.
Thanks, Amy. Forrest, can we see if there's any audience comments or Zoom comments?
Yes, we do have one member of the audience that would like to make a public comment. Aya, I am bringing you in and allowing you to talk. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready, and you will have 3 minutes to make your comment.
Hi, it's Anya again. I'm sure as you guys can tell, I'm a special ed teacher because I talk on almost all of these topics. But this resolution sounds lovely. I just really, really hope that we have learned from the past and this time you follow through and we get past listening into action, and that you really think about if these steps don't get followed, what's the next piece? It's great to talk about adequate staffing, but what happens when there's not? What are going to be the follow-through steps? It's great to talk about well-trained staff, but what happens when you on a regular basis are sending in staff with zero training? And when they rotate through every few months? So that would just be my biggest thing to consider. I love the students I teach. I love working in this district. But I want to make sure that we actually support these kids and stop just making it look pretty. Thank you.
We do have one more public commenter, Marcella. I'm going to be bringing you in, allowing you to talk. Go ahead and unmute and begin when ready. You will have 3 minutes to make your comment.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I also want to appreciate this resolution and really the focus on making sure that our district has the support that it needs to make sure that all of our students have the access to the free and appropriate public education that they deserve. One of the big challenges and something that in terms of implementation, I hope is really kind of taken into account. There is one bullet point about sufficient funding to support staffing, staff retention, and necessary resources for special education services. And we know that the federal funding structure doesn't really support the amount of resources that are required to provide a really robust education. So knowing that that doesn't exist, even if we hope it exists, means that we have to be really creative about how we are making sure that all of our students have access and that all of our staff have the resources that they need to do their jobs. So please check in with your special education staff, make sure they have all of the materials that they need so that they can do the work that they need to do. And my last recommendation is the one that I make every time, which is partner with your local universities, the people that are producing special educators, speech language pathologists, school psychologists. We're here and interested in helping. Thanks.
And President Watkins, back to you. There are no other members that would like to make a public comment.
Great, thank you, Forrest. Opening it up to any board discussion. If folks have any comments, if not, this is up for a vote.
Can I just ask, there's the mentions of different committees and my question would be, who is the person or people that are responsible for ensuring that these get carried out?
Back
I was just going to give a shout out to Amy Pickensher and Jennifer Mayman, who are also involved in this, and just thank them for their leadership on CDAC and you know, continuing to make sure that there's a district focus, but also the school board and keeping us accountable. And so just want to appreciate everything that they do as well.
Yes, second to that. I see them both online. Thank you both for your involvement, advocacy, pushing for all of this and collaborating with Trustee Proctor and I and the district on this.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll second it.
Trustee Proctor with the motion, trustee Trin with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We are now on to board member statements and requests for future agenda items. I will just start by bringing back 2 items. I would love for us to have an overview of just PTA funding generally, how it currently works in our district, what are the policies, just so we have a better sense of that, so you can begin to think about what that means in terms of next steps. And then would love to have a site, I don't know if it's site by site or Superintendent Ochoa, you can probably decipher kind of some of the comments around wanting to have a sense of staffing decisions as it relates to equity in our school sites. I don't know if that's a site by site discussion or what, but there sounds like there's a little bit of a historical desire. Like, what does this look like? What kinds of positions have we funded historically? What does that mean for what we're funding now as a district? How has it changed over time? What does it look like across sites? How does it vary based on types of school? So I think having an update to that regard would also be great. I'm seeing nodding heads on that. So sounds like there's some agreement there.
If I can suggest something for us to think about. The board has a process to go deep into an issue. Looking at historical district-wide staffing is not going to happen in a meeting like this. My recommendation to the board, for us to think about in the future is to devote 3 hours to sit down and work with our teams to gather a lot of information. Getting an update from PTA from a 30,000 foot view, that we could probably put something like that together for a typical regular board.
Good discussion. Staffing.
First, welcome, Maggie. Yes. I'm really glad that I've been feeling that we've been very incomplete the last few meetings without being fully staffed or not fully complete here at the board level. So I'm glad that you're on board and I look forward to working with you. On that note, now that we are complete, it'd be great for us as a future agenda item to bring in, whether it's like governance team meeting or something else in that frame to both bring Maggie and, like you said, anything else to reinforce that maybe we can get at the conference as well. And then also maybe to go over some of maybe our policies that are now changing now that the next week is the end of the COVID pandemic emergency authorization. So that would be great to kind of go through that in terms of what the roles and responsibilities and the thresholds in terms of the approvals would be great to reinforce that and remind us of everything about that. Secondly, I just, as a statement, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I am, it was on the consent agenda, but I'm very, very happy that we are moving forward with our solar program with the ratification with NG. There was actually Trustee Brooks and I were at a San Mateo County CSBA event a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And one of the last agenda items was a presentation from a climate consultant. And she had made the statement that year over year, our PG&E, school districts PG&E rates have increased 19% from the previous year. And so the issue is
on solar.
Yeah, well, I know that there's, the payback was at a certain amount of year, but it'd be nice to kind of know, like, when we finally have it up and running, what is that payback? Because, the rates are only going to go up. Lastly, I'm hoping that we put in the call to the city of San Mateo regarding their eucalyptus trees near our schools, because I would really not hope, I really don't want them out around us, especially not in, especially while kids aren't in school, while kids are in school. Lastly, I would echo trustee President Watkins' call on the PTA. I think as we've gone through and we've hit a number of things and we've tackled a number of things, bringing the PTA in and making sure that they are funding things that, really move the needle, I think really would help. And to resolve sort of this hamster wheel, as they call it, to try and see if we can get off of it. So, that's it. Thank you.
Any other statements or requests?
I have a couple. So one, I was also thinking of the pandemic, the end of the emergency, whatever you call it, state of emergency, and just curious how that might also impact the school district. I know that it seems like some funding maybe for testing. I don't know everything that we're doing, and if there's anything we should be aware of that's going to change other than what Trustee Chin already said. Also, I was looking at the agenda builder and just wanted to make sure that we're staying on track. I think it looks like we're due for a school construction update and some other things. So hoping those and communication update, I guess. Hoping those will be coming to us soon. And then lastly, just wanted to congratulate and welcome Trustee Trin. We've all been new before, the new person, so don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. There's a lot to learn and a lot of people you're going to meet, and so we're here to support you. So thank you. Yes, lots of letters to learn.
Yeah.
Yes, well done. Super excited. Righty. Anybody else?
I just want to welcome you as now our newest trustee. It didn't last long for me. I don't know how to feel about that. Thank you so much. But welcome. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Right, future meeting dates, item number 9 are listed there. I will not read them. Public, we're going to be recessing the closed session, but we'll open up public comment on closed session items at this time. Any in-person audience public comments? Of course, I see at least one hand raised on Zoom. If you could take Zoom public comment, please, on closed session items.
Thank you, President Watkins. At this time, we're taking public comments from audience members. If you are in the audience and would like to make public comment, please use the raise hand functionality within Zoom now, and you will be given 3 minutes to make your comment. Pierce, we'll start with you. Go ahead and unmute and begin when ready.
Hello again, folks. Pierce here from Bowditch. Yeah, I just want to take a moment and thank you and appreciate the challenging nature of your job, because Anya, who spoke earlier, that she was a peer of mine at grad school. She said kind of the opposite thing of what I want to say to you, not with respect to special education particularly, and I'm not undermining her point. But yeah, anyway, it's very clear it's a hard job, so thank you. So yeah, with respect to some of the things that we'll be discussing with specifically discipline, dismissal, and release, I would love, and I've heard this raised before, but I would love to hear more about what kind of questions are being asked on the exit interviews and what kind of information you're gathering. And a couple of specific ones, like one is to the point I made with respect to Anya. My experience right now is kind of the opposite, that there's actually too much action and not enough listening. From my own experience and anecdotally speaking from so many other places, there have been so many systemic changes to what I'm experiencing middle school and not enough bandwidth to actually implement to the spirit, in my opinion. I will also appreciate that I am a layperson and maybe I don't fully appreciate the 5-year strategic plan, but that is my experience. Yeah, that is really affecting my experience. I'm not one to shy away from hard work. The day after we returned from spring break back into distance learning after that initial packet couple of weeks, I was managing 10 Google Meets simultaneously, and all students had their cameras on and were engaged in small group learning. Like, I'll make things happen, but I have been incredibly stressed this year with all of the challenges. It'd be interesting to know if any of the folks who are resigning might be responding to similar experiences. Another thing I wanted to raise with respect to discipline, dismissal and release is now escaping me. Again, a little short on time and didn't write it all out. If you'll bear with me for a moment. Naya. Well, thank you for your patience. It's eluding me. Yeah, I wish I could think of it. I guess it's that time in the evening and it's time for me to say goodnight. Hopefully, I'll think of it and I can follow up with you later. Thank you again for all that you do.
Thank you. And with that, we are going to recess the closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, you can sign other Zooms.
Alrighty, we are returning from closed session with 3 things to report out of closed session. By a vote of 5-0, 2 probationary certificated employees were non-reelected from certificated employment effective June 30th, 2023. Hold on one second. Item number 11A on the closed session agenda, a majority of the board voted 5-0 to approve a compromise agreement in Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2022110786 to resolve claims raised against the district in exchange for specified funding for tutoring and parents' attorneys' fees incurred in this matter. And item number 11B on the closed session agenda, a majority of the board voted 5-0 to approve a compromise agreement in Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2022120543 to resolve claims raised against the district in exchange for specified funding for reimbursement for students' private placement. With that, I will need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Brooks, for the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are now adjourned. Good night, everybody.